Today I was planning on making a video, but it wasn't on this subject. It's going to be about what guns should you EDC and everyday carry and why and that kind of stuff. But so much has happened in the last few days. There's been so much rhetoric as things heat up in these next 30 days between now and when, or actually this week, when the Electoral College votes, and then uh, in a few weeks when Joe Biden is sworn in as president. Um, the things that disturb me, and the subtitle of this video is based on that, and that is uh, there are folks that throw out the term XYZ is unconstitutional because, and then therefore this action needs to be taken and so forth. I've heard, well, we will not recognize Joe Biden as president of the United States. Well, you know what, boys and girls, I heard that same crap when Barack Obama was elected president. Uh, he's not our president. I mean, everybody says that. And the fact is, as long as we have the form of government that we have, that is true. Trump was very open and said he is only the president of red hat people, the MAGA people, that he is not the president of those that don't support him. Um, that just made the situation worse. It just made the situation worse and then further caused the split of the country. I think as much as I liked the idea of Barack Obama becoming president, that event was the wedge that finally broke the country because pent up inside the country was still this innate um, cultural residue from slavery. And I am not talking about this bullshit critical race theory crap that people are trying to put out there. What I'm saying is that you cannot legislate morality. You can only legislate behavior. So when you legislate that certain behavior is no longer acceptable, which is what the civil rights laws did and a bunch of other laws, all that did was push those sentiments underneath so that they were not visible or only visible to those who shared those sentiments. And the same was true when gay rights and abortion and all those other cultural issues became legal, and there were those who felt they should not be legal, which brings me to my point. Um, Before I go further, I want to restate for the record that I am an oath keeper. I am an oath keeper by definition. As an officer in the U.S. military, that was the oath that I took, and that stays with me until I go to sleep and wake up dead, right? As with all of us who took that oath. I'm also a member of the Oath Keepers group, uh, and that's just because that's something I choose to do. There were those that would try to classify me as a result as some kind of wild-eyed radical person, and it's not true. And there are some things that Stuart Rhodes, who's the president of Oath Keepers, and I disagree on in terms of either rhetoric or position, which is also the reason that I want to put this out, because there's some things that he came out with in an interview last week where he talked about, and this was the day before the Supreme Court was to make a decision on whether or not they were going to recognize the lawsuit from Texas and about 14 other states that says other states who had issues or they believe had issues with their election disenfranchised Texas voters. And then therefore that was the argument that the Supreme Court should nullify or cause the other states that had these issues to either, I don't know what they wanted them to do, but it would have resulted in Trump remaining president. The Supreme Court, as it often does, chose not to hear the case. You know, they didn't rule on it. They just said, we're not going to take that case up. And for those that don't understand the Supreme Court, and I think most Americans have no clue on how that entity works, the Supreme Court doesn't hear everything that gets to it. As a matter of fact, most things that get to it, they don't hear. There are people that have that have strong feelings about this thing or that thing, and they believe that the Supreme Court somehow is magically going to rule in their favor. Donald Trump made I don't know what he was smoking, but he believed that because the three people that he nominated to the court would always have loyalty to him and what he wanted. I mean, frankly, that is his nature. His nature is deny, 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 lie, 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 see you in court. That has been his mantra since he was a zygote. And he carried that into being president. And he had all the lawsuits mapped out in case he did not win this presidential election.
Morning.
So the issue then becomes, what next for him, right? What next for him? Well, Stuart Rhodes, president of Oath Keepers, said, well, President Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act. And the Insurrection Act is part of our Constitution. And the President of the United States, regardless of who they are, has a right to use that tool. Mr. Rhodes believed that would be a constitutional move. It would have resulted in Donald Trump remaining president during the quote insurrection. Well, Rhodes' thesis was, if he does that, then there will be bloodshed. I agree. He's then said, if he doesn't do that and Biden becomes president, there will be more bloodshed. I agree with that. I think that there's going to be bloodshed. How much and over what period? You know, little skirmishes here or there. I'm not talking about some uprising in the country, but I am talking about people being mad. And what are they mad about? They're mad because the Constitution isn't working for them. So here's coming to the purpose of the video. You and I are individuals, and we are governed by the Constitution and the rules in it. You and I don't get to decide what is and is not constitutional. I want to make that point clear. You can have strongly held feelings all you want, but at the end of the day, the only thing you and I can do is petition for a decision about the constitutionality of a thing. Now, sometimes the court will decide as a court, and we won't like what they decide. I hated the idea of the Citizens United ruling. I hated the idea that law enforcement officers are protected when they misbehave on duty. Those kind of things. And there are many, and there's some that other people hate, like Roe v. Wade and Brown versus Board of Education. I mean, people are still hating that because they want to come back and resegregate schools and all that kind of stuff. But my point is, you and I as citizens do not decide and cannot act on what is or what we believe to be constitutional or not. We can petition for a decision to be made. We petition through the court system. Now, Mr. Rhodes and some of the other people uh, um, will say the judicial is corrupted. Well, they say that because decisions are being made that they don't like. And then, therefore, the only reason that anyone would make a decision against what they believe is that they are corrupt judges. That is especially not true at the Supreme Court level. Now, the reality of the Supreme Court is that it has happened, but it's rare that you'll have unanimous decisions. Unanimous. All of them agree. Most of the time, it's a split vote. Most of the time. 5-4, 6 something, whatever. And in most of the time, there is a dissent. The problem I have with people who love the Constitution will say, the dissenter was right because the dissenter agrees with me because I disagree with the ruling of the court. When the Supreme Court decides on something, that's it. That's it. There's no other place to go. And if you say, like Mr. Rhodes and some of his followers say, that therefore the court is corrupt, I mean, they are pissed that the 3 judges appointed by Trump don't sit there wearing a red hat. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't fucking work that way. So, um, what happens, right? Well, life goes on and you live with the decision. We, the people, have petitioned for decision on whether a thing is constitutional. Some of us will like the decision and some of us won't. Some of the decisions will be what we want, some of the decisions won't. But that doesn't mean that we declare the court somehow no longer constitutional, right? Because we don't get this to decide what is and is not constitutional, right? Because that would mean that we would have an insurrection. We would have a revolution, which is different than a civil war. We would have a revolution, and then you would have people doing stupid stuff, like going armed and taking over a federal building or threatening with force of arms certain elected officials or government people because we don't like the decision that was made. And that cuts both ways because Biden, after January, can invoke the Insurrection Act, just like Trump could, right? And there are people in his camp that absolutely would support that. I'm talking about his attorney general. I'm talking about his vice president. There are way too many people who would be chomping at the bit to do that. And who would they target that insurrection engine to? Anybody who carries a firearm in public, anybody who is a member of Oath Keepers, or anybody who likes to wear, like I love to wear, aloha shirts. Right? My daughter hates me wearing aloha shirts, but it has nothing to do with the big igloo. It has to do with she just doesn't like them. We have our thing, right? But what happens? What happens now? People disagree. We just had up in Seattle, the armed contingent of the right wing and Antifa. This is after a peaceful protesting, peaceful rally and counter rally, because that's what they were, had ended. Antifa runs out and starts engaging violently with some, I'm going to say Proud Boys in quotes, because that those kind of guys were there. And the police, bless their hearts, were trying to get in the middle, keep them apart, and the police start getting whooped by Antifa, not the right wing guys, because we support the police. Blue Lives Matter, right? If you want to go that way. Now, Black lives have never mattered, but I did a video on that, right? And y'all can yell at me if you want to. Um, so what happens next? What happens? I mean, there are going to be people who want to, Antifa, for example, wants to engage in a violent set of actions. They want to provoke it. They want to provoke it. They really want to provoke it with law enforcement so they can get that that million click video. See, we told you the cops like to beat up on brown people and so forth. And they'll find something that has an emotional tie, like this stupid Red House thing going on up in Portland, right? Look that one up. It's called the Red House. It's stupid. It's stupid. Uh, but let's come back to the Constitution. Coming up at a court near you are several Second Amendment. I'm a Second Amendment supporter, by the way. I'm a single issue voter, Second Amendment. Coming up will be several cases that get to the Supreme Court that the Supreme Court will hear. We know, we certainly will hear that. We don't know what the outcome will be, but we do know that they're going to take those cases up. If the ruling comes back that it affirms our constitutional right to keep and bear arms in public with strict scrutiny, that means that almost every law on the books, both federal, state, and local, becomes unconstitutional because it has serious infringement on that right. That's what strict scrutiny does. Should that happen, I expect massive resistance from states like California, Hawaii, New Jersey, and New York, especially New York City, who know what will happen when citizens are allowed to be armed in public. Their goons will start failing the room temperature test, or as a friend of mine who is a retired EOD tech for the Navy would say, they will fail the water tightness test. That's the concern. Go see the movie Gangs of New York and look what happened there. So I think that the resistance to a positive Second Amendment environment from the Supreme Court will so traumatize the left that they will increase their efforts to have violent contacts to show why it's so bad to have guns in public. Now, I could go on, but I ramble enough. I'd appreciate your thoughts. Please share. If you haven't subscribed and you like the content, go check out some more of the videos. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and as always, thanks for watching. Carry on.